All right, welcome back. This is still the Polity reaching you from Abuja. Now we'll be going heading straight into the conversation on the state of the nation. Like I said earlier, with APC stakeholder Mr. Tajudeen Tijjani Ahmed. He joins me now to do some justice to some trending issues bordering on the state of the nation and the polity. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, my brother. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. So, let's start with a lot that has happened over the weekend, particularly the National Assembly approving the supplementary budget, taking it to about 819 billion, if I remember correctly. But out of that, 500 billion is supposed to be earmarked for palliatives for Nigerians. What's your take on that, and how do you think it would work out?
Well, the issue of these palliatives has been going on since we know it, mostly from the 2015 to date. That is when President Muhammadu Buhari was the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Though sometimes some of the ministries, the Ministry of Humanitarian, try its best to see that it reach the target audience, that it is the vulnerable Nigerians that are targeted to benefit from those palliatives. While in some instances, we came to the point, of course, some of the governors decided to hold those palliatives. So it goes to the essence that Nigerians decided to boggle those warehouses where those palliatives were kept. So it depends on what actually the government decided to do. What parameters is the government trying to? Of course, the palliatives is good. At this time, there has never been a time that Nigerians need palliatives than this time, especially with the effect of the model of fuel subsidy that is biting mostly everybody. So for government to decide to introduce palliatives, it earmarks certain amount of money to give to Nigerians, whether to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. I think it is a good omen. I think it is a good start. But how the government decide to distribute that money, how government decided to send that money, will it reach the target or then? That is the question that Nigerians are supposed to ask. What measures, what parameters has the government put in place to ensure that this the target audience, the vulnerable Nigerians, the average Nigerians that are in so much that are in their need of those palliatives, has it reached to them or has not? Well, if the government decided, I heard somewhere that the government is trying to give 8,000, that
yes,
one.
Yes, I was about to mention that.
That one.
It's supposed to be 12 million households are meant to get 8,000 naira, per household. And I believe these are one-time payments. They are not maybe for a period of time. And if you just suppose this with what you mentioned about COVID, we knew that COVID was, a period of time and people needed help within that period of lockdown and so on.
Yeah.
But it was never seen as something that was going to extend, for so long, so to speak. But in this case, we have the, price of transportation and all that. They've all increased. So getting an 8,000 naira palliative, what can this really do?
In my own opinion, in my own perspective, that the issue of 8,000 does not arise. That issue of 8,000 is very insensitive to Nigeria. It cannot do anything. Looking at the present circumstances, looking at the economy, looking at what Nigerians are going, to me, in my own perspective, if I will advise the government, what it's supposed to do is trying to minimize the issue of transportation, trying to see that how can I bring subsidy, how can I cushion the effect of this fuel subsidy removal to the issue of especially transportation. In my own view, let the government try to invest massively in mass transportation so that the state government, the local government has mass transit in a cheaper price so that people can be able to move from one destination, one location to another in a very cheap price, while the federal government also trying to do something of similar nature. So if you look at it on the issue of the government that said it decided to remove fuel subsidy because it doesn't have that amount of money, so that for it to continue with the policy of the, even though it is not even budgeted in the 2022 appropriation bill. Though there is no money, had the government said that there is no money for it to be able to pay subsidy, it doesn't have that amount of money, and certain people, certain big wigs are the one who are benefiting from it. Though I can say if government decided to channel the amount, that amount of money that it is trying to, that what it normally spend on fuel subsidy, I think for the government to channel that amount of money in infrastructure, especially railway pavement, when government decided to channel that, if we have rail network all over the country, I think it will ease our movement, it will ease movement of goods and services from one location to another, looking at the versatility of railway and looking at how the world has been developed in terms of infrastructure. Most of the developing world, they are resort to rail transport system. So when the government make sure that they give emphasis on infrastructure, especially the rail, even our roadway pavement that is being damaged by mass transit, that is being damaged by trucks because of the amount of load that is, because of the pressure of the load that is, I think when we channel that amount of money to the railway system, when our railway is working effectively in this country, our road will have a much better lifespan. Our road would last long, and also the ease of travel, the ease of movement will be good in terms of transportation.
All right, you make a fair point, about how the funds would possibly have made better sense. What do you make about Nigerians who feel that they've been scammed? In that, it is said that about 400 billion naira is what Nigeria has been borrowing to pay subsidies. Now, 500 billion naira is the amount that we're speaking about now, an extra 100 billion, and the money is being sent to Nigerians. And people are wondering, if 400 billion was not sustainable, and it was being used for fuel, even fuel at the long run, what's the word? It boosts the economy because people get to move from places to places, goods and services, the costs reduce and all that. So even subsidy to an extent had a direct impact on the economy. But this time you're just giving people handouts and you're adding an extra 100 billion to the money you said you couldn't afford anymore.
Well, the issue of budget is something that if you are not close to it, if you are not following things the way it is expected, you must be closely monitoring what is happening. One issue of budget is something that you earmark that I want to spend a certain amount of money, while the benchmark price, most of our income come from crude oil. Mostly the income in this country, mostly is what we use to budget the appropriation bill in every year. So mostly the amount is what you expect to get and what you decided to spend. And in certain instances there is budget deficit that we sometimes borrow from the foreign countries. We borrow in order to bridge that gap, in order to bridge that deficit. So to say that the government is trying to be dubious in character, I think those that are saying that, they are not being fair to the government. They are not being fair to government, because government is trying to see that what can I do, what can we do to see that we eliminate the suffering of the average Nigerian. We see that, of course, how can the countrymen be able to benefit from, or how can we try to ensure that Nigerians are not suffering? How can we decide to ameliorate the suffering of the average Nigerian? So that is why government decide to budget a certain amount of money to see that average Nigerian, vulnerable Nigerian get that amount, even though, as I said earlier, the money is adequately insufficient. That amount of money, that 8,000 naira that we had, it is very insensitive. It cannot do anything. Looking at the economy, looking at what we are going on now, looking at the kind of condition that Nigerians are going to, because if you go to the market, you will see almost everything has skyrocketed, everything has gone up. what you can buy before with 1,000 naira, now you cannot be able to do it. And looking at the condition, how our naira is depreciating, how our naira is becoming, the dollar is becoming so, you know, it is very unfortunate what is happening. But we have to look inward. We have to see as a country trying to, what we are depending on oil is no longer visible. What ways can we do, especially, and I think if Nigerians will go back to agriculture, this is the best way for us to go. It is the best way for our country to move forward. But you cannot go back to agriculture except government try to intervene in such a way that it provides. In some other countries, government provide electricity, government provide fertilizer in a cheaper price so that people can be able to go to farm. You cannot tell Nigerians to go back to farm without providing enough adequate facilities for it, for people to be able to go back to farm. And you cannot provide, we need security. You know, in certain villages, they cannot be able to go back to their farm because of the insecurity, because some unscrupulous element in the country called bandit or farmers say that's something, they normally attack people while in the farm. So government primary responsibility is try to guarantee peace. If there is peace, people can be able to go back to farm. And while government, we also need intervention for government to try to see that how can it make adequate fertilizer, how can government try to provide, especially in the dry season, how can government try to provide electricity in the farm, or anything that can assist the farmers to be able to go back to farm and cultivate more land so that we can be able to feed our nation. You know, there is danger when a country cannot be able to defend itself, when a country cannot be able to feed itself. We cannot just depend on foreign countries to be able to depend to feed us. No, that will not go. We have to look inward. We have to look at ways how can government and other stakeholders try to come in so that we improve on agriculture, so that agriculture can be the best way for us to be able to, when Nigerians are not hungry, I think they can mind their own business. They cannot much disturb the government that this is what we need, this is what we need. But when people are hungry, they can resort to any kind of violence. You know, they cannot be able to do what is expected of them, because someone that is feeling hungry, he cannot think effectively, his brain cannot function effectively. So government should try to come in and see that it makes sure that people go back to farm in a conducive manner so that things can of course go the way it's supposed to be.
All right, you mentioned that the 8,000 naira is a bit insensitive. So speaking of insensitive, there are persons who believe that another portion of that supplementary budget is also insensitive. And I'm talking about the 70 billion naira that was put aside for the National Assembly for working conditions. That's what is referred to. That's about 70 billion for about 500 persons in total. So what do you make of that in terms of the average Nigerian struggling to get 8,000 naira? The average household, average household struggling to get 8,000 naira, and we have House of Reps and Senators, getting to, sink their teeth into over 70 billion naira.
You see, on my own perspective, if the National Assembly decided to approve 70 billion for it to function effectively, I think if they did not violate any law in the Constitution, they did not do anything wrong. They are in the right course, and if that money can be judicially used, the National Assembly members, they are the representative of the people. They are being elected by the people. Our elections has now become very cost effective, has now become people spend much amount of money, and the issue that is at hand presently, the Nigerians most concerned, if you can bring 500 bills in your 4 years, up bills and motions, nobody will care about you except when you do something. What they get from their constituency is what matters to them most. So of course these lawmakers have burden on them. their constituency disturb them mostly in trying to, they are the one who will take care of their wedding, they are the one who will take care of so things. So once, even if you perform optimally in the primary responsibility in the National Assembly, then without giving them back to, without giving them anything, nobody will vote for you again. It is sad, it is unfortunate in a developed country, in a developing country like Nigeria, that we are in this unfortunate situation. While on the other perspective, when you look at it, these lawmakers, they hired aid, even though some of the aids are being taken care by the National Assembly, while some they take care of them. For you to be able to function effectively, for you to draft a bill, there are a lot of money that you spend, even though those amount of money are there in their allowances and this thing. So when National Assembly is being inaugurated, there are certain things that they need in the office for them to function optimally. There are certain things that they need, and the constituency also is waiting for them to give something back. I am not right here to defend the National Assembly for the amount of money, but if that amount of money, that 70 billion naira, they judicially use it in order for them to improve the condition of service, for them to provide bills, for them to work optimally for the satisfaction of Nigerians. I think for me, on my own view,
do you think they will have Nigerians in mind? The stipulation says working condition, you know, it's almost their own version of palliatives, so to speak. So, but again, do you think maybe these are things they could also begin to think about cutting down on? You know, when I do the calculation, I think it is about 14 million naira per lawmaker. That's assuming they share it evenly.
14
million naira, I believe.
14 million naira.
Yes,
so to the National Assembly members, the Senate and the House of what is 14 million naira for them? If you look,
which means they can just afford to forfeit the 70 billion naira.
If you look at the burden on them, for them to spend 14 million naira to improve their working condition, I think that amount of money is not much. Looking back, people are just considering that they thought the National Assembly members, they will just use that money for them and their family. No, it is not that way. Mostly the constituencies are waiting for them. The people that they voted for them, they are waiting for them. They disturb them with calls, calling them day and night to give them.
But that's not the fault of Nigerians. No one said that you have to use the funds to,
whether you like it or not. The kind of democracy we are practicing in Nigeria, you must give back. Whatever you do, whatever you try to do to ensure to give effective representation without giving your constituency something back. This is a sad reality we are in. I am not depending on the amount of money, but for them, you know, they need vehicles, they need certain things, they need stationery in the office.
But those things, most of them are already in the budget for them.
Okay, they are already.
I believe this is why, you know, people say that politicians get it easy, because the things they normally would spend money for,
then
they are already being provided.
If all that they need are there in the budget, if all that they require are there in the budget, then to say that they need another amount of money without stating what they intend to do with it, even though they said to improve their working condition, if it is within stipulated, it is within the law of the land, if it has not contravened any section of the Constitution, of the 1990 Constitution as amended, then they have not violated any rule. But you are saying that it is there are types of palliatives. They have a lot of burden, as I said earlier. But I hope the National Assembly will go back to their constituency. If given that amount of money, they should go back. There are some boreholes that have been damaged, even though in their constituency project there is, but they still need more. They still need more. There are people mistaking that the work of the National Assembly is something at that of the executive. That is why a certain amount of money is in every year is earmarked for the National Assembly for constituency project, because as I said earlier, without that amount of money, without them intervening in certain aspects in their constituency, nobody will vote for them. Even if whatever you can do to please your people, whatever you can do to see that you give effective representation, nobody will vote for you, except when you are giving them something back. There are roads that have been damaged. There are certain things that need immediate attention of the state government. But unfortunately, in certain time, the state government look other way around. So those National Assembly members trying to intervene in certain aspects. I am telling you from experience. I worked with the National Assembly before as an aide to a member, and I know what they have gone through. I know what they are going through. I know what is there in the National Assembly, what they are doing. But what I am calling the National Assembly members, they should fear God. Whatever money is given to them, they should utilize it in order to make the lives of average Nigerians better, in order to see that what they do with the money is in tandem with what is expected of them to do. Is in tandem. They do not violate any rule. They try to do it to the benefit of their constituency, so that we can move forward as a nation.
All right, fair enough. Still on the issue of the National Assembly, the Senate yesterday confirmed the appointment of the service chiefs. After consideration by the Senate majority leader, and finally we have the service chief being confirmed. Well, I'd just like to get your thoughts on the time it took for this to happen, and the fact that in the interim between the period where they were announced and now that they've been confirmed, according to law, that they've been functioning as in the capacity that they were appointed as. Do you think perhaps these are the kind of things that should be followed strictly, to the rule of law, wherein without confirmation by the Senate, these persons shouldn't, just take office and make, far-reaching decisions?
Well, if you will go back to the Constitution, the President has the power to appoint and dismiss. So the President decided to appoint the service chiefs, while subject to the confirmation of the Senate, of the National Assembly. So the President has sent their names for confirmation, for them to sit up, for them to perform effectively, for them to function their work, for them to function optimally in their offices. Of course, it is a process. While the process has gone, the Constitution gave the President the power to appoint them, while he should send the names to the National Assembly for confirmation. So the names were being sent to the National Assembly, and yesterday, fortunately, they were being able to confirm. Indeed, the National Assembly did the right thing to confirm them, for them to have peace of mind that there is no any lingering issue regarding our appointment. Now we can focus on trying to protect the territorial integrity of our country, that is Nigeria. Then what they did is in tandem with the law of the land. So there is no any ambiguity, there is no anything that is negative in what they did. They follow the due process, they follow the normal process, and that is what is expected. The President has the power to appoint, while the National Assembly has the power to confirm or reject those appointments, while the President decided to confirm them, so for them to do what is expected of them. And they did that within a certain period of time, which the Constitution has allowed it. So I think this is in order. Of course, this is in the right perspective, and this is what we expect the President to do, as far as the Constitution has allow him to do that.
All right. You still have questions of possibilities of the National Assembly being rubber stamped in the terms that the confirmation wasn't awaited before action. But anyway, let's move over quickly to some party.
But there is something I want to say regarding this issue. You say Nigerians are thinking that this National Assembly, when they confirm, when they are in line with what the executive did, they are called rubber stamp. But whenever they reject anything, people should understand, the Nigerian populace should understand that this the National Assembly, the government is in three phases: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. They are not in conflicting with each other. They are there to provide what is expected for them to Nigerian. They are there to function optimally so that the separation of power is not for them to be fighting. It's for them to understand what the Constitution has said, for them to understand this is our own law. This is what the law says and us. This is what we are expected to do. The Constitution gives us certain power. This is what we do. So whenever the National Assembly in line with the executive, people are calling it rubber stamp. This is not how it is supposed to be, except when the executive try to go otherwise, then the National Assembly has the power to checkmate the excesses of the executive. So when they are in tandem, when they are in good time, when they are in the same perspective, we should not be mistaken them for being rubber stamp. What we need is for Nigeria to move forward. And if the National Assembly and the executive come in the same perspective, come in line with what is expected of them, then it's better for us to encourage them, for us to give them the total support that they needed to move forward as a country.
All right, let's go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll pick up from there and move on to another issue, and that is really burning at the moment. Okay. All right, we'll take a short break. When we return, the polity continues. All right, welcome back. This is still the polity reaching you live from Abuja. We'll go straight on to the other issue now. I'm talking about the matter of the Labour Party. We have the Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Akin Osuntokun, pardon that pronunciation, has called for the dismissal once again and the prosecution of the National Chairman of INEC, that is Mahmood Yakubu. Now, take this also in tandem with about a week ago or some days ago, the party chairman urged the members to prepare for a rerun. Now, what's your take on this stage of, the contention of the presidency, even as we are saying that, like the president said, he has hit the ground running and a lot of things are already happening?
Well, the Labour Party spokesperson has his right, in his own right, to call for the sacking, removal and prosecution of the national chairman. But the question that lingers, on what basis should the national chairman of INEC be sacked and prosecuted? What has he done wrong? What has he done that he deserved to be? For him, is it because he was able to function in tandem with the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria?
But would you say the EFCC chairman or the CBN governor have done anything wrong?
Yeah, of course.
So what did they do wrong?
What did they wrong is the government, is the security agency that decided that there is infraction in their offices. So they have role. The Nigerian Constitution give them power to checkmate them, to invite them, so that for them to explain certain things that are not clear to them. So when the INEC chairman did the something, he will be invited, and he is not imminent for prosecution, so he can be called to answer if he decide to, or if he violate any constitution. But on this ground, we have not seen anything. The Nigerian people have not seen. In fact, the Nigerian people has passed vote of confidence on the election, that on the presidential election that was just concluded in the 2023. The international community have applauded what INEC did.
Even the European Union mission.
Everybody, especially a majority of the countries that they have came here during the election to observe.
Are you sure about this? Are you sure it's not the opposite?
I'm very sure it's not the opposite.
Because just recently, the presidency rejected the European Union report.
Well, if any party understand that or feel they were being rigged or certain thing, what the law stipulated is that for them to go to court. While now we are in court. So I think the best thing that the Labour Party should do, of course, is to allow the rule of law to work, allow the court to decide. We are now in the election petition tribunal, so allow the tribunal to decide what it's supposed to do, allow it to work efficiently. I believe that the court will do justice to each and every party. I believe that there will not be any bias. The court will decide what is expected of them. They will perform optimally. There will not be bias or favor. But what I believe, Nigerians decided to give their mandate to Asuwaju Bola Ahmed to do for good 4 years. And this issue of court is a certain distraction, though the lawyers are there to defend the party. The lawyers are there to defend the mandate that clearly Nigerians decide to give Asuwaju Bola Ahmed, and we hope he will use his 4 years optimally to the benefit of all Nigerians, so that Nigerians will be happy that he has come so and conquer, that he has come. Of course, he has made certain things that Nigeria will be happy. We wish that Nigeria will be better place for all of us in the next 4 years. So for the Labour Party to be calling that the INEC chairman should be prosecuted or their members should get ready for run, I think is very, this is
what do you think about that confidence, that where they tell their members to prepare for a rerun even when the matter is not yet decided?
Perhaps they are dreaming. Perhaps they are thinking maybe they are not from the world that we are. Maybe they are not. They are thinking of another country, not Nigeria. But as far as Nigeria is
impossible.
It's very impossible.
Why?
On my own perspective, because we know that this election was the free and fairest election ever conducted by INEC in the history of our country. I have on good ground that if you look at the bottom patent, if you look at how could a president not win his state? If you look at it, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the power to manipulate this board, he will start it from Lagos. While if you look at the election result, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not won Lagos. President Muhammadu Buhari, when he was the leader of the party, when he was the president, he has not won his state. We have lost Kaduna, we have lost so many states. So how could you think if these people, these powerful people that I just mentioned, they could be able to take the election, they will not start it from their home? I think this is very insensitive to think that this election was rigged. This election was the free and fairest election we ever conducted.
The INEC chairman and the body making promises that they didn't keep, such as transmission of results and all that. To me,
this election is the best. To say that certain things has not been, it can be 100% perfect, but to me we are near perfect. Looking at the circumstances, looking at the certain people are trying to, even though I don't want to delve into that, the issue of INEC, SABA, certainty transmission of the result. But now that the elections are over, so we should allow the competent court, the court that the Constitution has allowed the election petition tribunal to do its work, so that there does not be any distraction. But calling INEC chairman to be sacked and prosecuted, I think it is the version which it should not supposed to be. They should allow they should allow him to concentrate on his work. He has a lot to do, and when his tenure has finished, I think by that time, of course, he will go, so that someone will come. In this country, we had more this issue, where at the time I could remember, while we are there on the line trying to cast our vote, we had in Abuja that the election result was announced. So that era is now over. So we are now moving to the right direction. Of course, you should not say that our democracy has been rigged. We are on the process to see. If you look at the Western world, if you look at America that we are copying from it, if you look at its election, before it comes to this stage, it has gone through so many hurdles. So we should expect that us too, with time, will become near perfect, even though perfection only comes from God only. Right, so as a human beings, we should do it to the best of our ability.
I guess that's fair enough from your own perspective. So let's quickly round up with a couple of questions. We've almost run out of time now. I'd just like your comments on the declaration of a state of emergency on food security, and also the issue with, you spoke about the CBN governor being in the wrong, but we've just we got a court case ruling over the weekend, nullifying the basis on which the DSS initially arrested him. So if you can just unbundle those two questions.
Well, I cannot say the CBN governor was wrong. What I am trying to say that the security agencies has something to ask him. So they have the power that the Constitution has.
But they held him so long and without charging him. You know,
then what I expect whenever security agency decide to invite certain people, I am not the father to MFLA in particular, but every Nigerian has his own constitutional right. So the security agency should try and respect the fundamental right of every Nigerian. Whenever he is invited, they should allow within stipulated time, should try to get him to court so that the court will decide if it is in their favor or if it is in that person's favor. So I am an optimistic, and I am an advocate of everyone should respect the Constitution of the Republic. Without the Constitution, nobody will be there where he is supposed to be, where he is. So we should respect the Constitution. We should allow the Constitution to work. There is no basis for the security agencies to be deviating from their normal function. They should try and respect the law. They should try and respect the fundamental right of every Nigerian. So this is my take on this issue.
All right. The President's declaration of state of emergency on food security.
Well, if you look at it, the present circumstance we are in, most Nigerians are very hungry. So declaring state of emergency on food security, I think it is the right decision and it is the best decision at the moment. But the question is, what parameters, are the government trying to do? Has the government made it known to Nigerians? This is what we are trying to do, to see that this country is food sufficient. This country, the average Nigerian can barely sleep with his stomach being fed well. So we need the government to come out so that the National Orientation Agency should come out and alert to the Nigerian populace that the government has,
what
the National Orientation Agency should come and tell the people that this is what government is trying to do. This is what measures government has put in place to see that the food security is continuous, is something that Nigerians can rely on, is something that Nigerians can be proud of, that this is will not be mere talk. So we want it in action, not only that the government said there is food security, emergency on food security, but we want the government to walk it talk, in the sense that let Nigerians see people have gone back to the farm, people have gone to the farm peacefully, government has support farmers, people have support the farmers everywhere, all in every nook and cranny, so that when people are busy, and the Ministry of Agriculture, its rural road that is, we have seen it is doing, let it continue, let there be enough budget for so that the movement of goods from the farm to the market is in easy way, so that people can be able to and the food price should come down, because it is barely, people are finding it very hard to feed themselves because of the skyrocketed of the food price presently in the country. So nobody is finding it easy. So,
but what comments would you have on the fact that the previous government seemed very strong on agriculture and homegrown solutions and so on, or local production, in terms of blocking locking the borders from importation of foreign food and all that? And then we had the issue of the pyramid, the rice pyramids, trying to show the progress in terms of rice being made in the country. And now we're still having issues with food security. Would we say that there was a level of failure to those interventions?
Well, the intention is noble, and the intention is on course, but somewhere along the line there is problem. Perhaps in the implementation, perhaps because you cannot say you close the border, you want us to be sufficient in food, we can be able to feed ourselves. There will be food sufficient in the country, while the food price has gone beyond the level, that Nigerians can afford. If Nigerians cannot afford, then the aim has been defeated. So we want it in a situation whereby government should see what measures can we do to ensure that this food is enough and this food is within the reach of average Nigerian. If you say, we can see rice pyramid or or pyramid of able of whatever kind, and Nigerians cannot be able to buy it with their money, cannot find it easy to have 3 square daily meal, then the aim is defeated. Well, we don't want it to be there. Along the line, I think the previous government has failed in the process of trying to, on the issue of food security, but we hope this government should put head on, should see that every stakeholder that has something to offer should be invited, and so that the thing will be effective, so that people can be able to feed themselves in a cheaper price. The cost of production.
Speaking about the government and stakeholders, I don't think it's getting a bit late. We still don't have any ministers.
What?
That we still don't have any ministers at this point. There are a lot of decisions being made, and people are asking, you know, you've made this decision. Take, for instance, the proposals to borrow and so on. There's no finance minister, and yet these things are going on. I think, I can't quite recall, but there have been a number of decisions made in ministries.
Well, I think in the ministries, after when there is no minister, the permanent secretary, the federal permanent secretary, they are in charge to take care of the affairs of the ministry. But we hope that in no time the president will announce his ministerial nominee, will send it to the Senate for possible confirmation, so that the government should go along the line, should go the way Nigeria expected to be. All right, we've
run out of time now. Thank you so much, Mr. Tijjani.
Thank you, Mr. Amadin. Thank you.
All right, that's all we'll take on the program for today. Do join us every weekday. Polity reaches you from Abuja, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow.